All right, so I'm gonna redo this real quick. This was this is the day 3 task from Angela Yu's course. So so if I run it, all right, what do you choose? Rock, paper, scissors, each corresponding to 0, 1, and 2 respectively. And when you give a response, such as 0 for rock, then you see that then you see a ASCII representation of your answer. This is already provided. You see computer chose, you see its answer. This looks a little like a warm apple pie. If you know, you know. And you win, you lose, or whatever. So if we run it again, if I choose 2 for scissors, right? In this case, it's a draw. If I choose 1 for paper, it's a draw, and so on. This just runs once. There's no loop. There's no would you like to play again. Does it account for invalid responses? So if I type something that is not one of these choices, like 5, you type an invalid number, and then you don't even get to play again. You lose, which is pretty brutal. So again, there's no loops in it, right? So it's just done. What if I type a non-integer, like if I say blah or something, undefined. So this has not been accounted for. So I did this earlier, and I came up with this ugly ass thing here. So this is the ASCII art that was already provided, right? We got 3 variables, each holding the respective image, I guess. So yeah, import random, all that, and then never mind the while true and all of that because I tried to get a little fancy with it. Let's just focus on the actual game itself. So I just went case by case, right? Case by case because there's um there's 3 choices, right? So that's 3 times 2 times 1. You got 6 possible permutations. So I just get counted for a single one, right? So it's like I did here. So player chooses rock and computer chooses paper. Player chooses rock, computer chooses scissors. And then again, player chooses paper, computer chooses rock. Player chooses paper, computer chooses scissors. And then player chooses scissors, computer chooses rock. Player chooses scissors, computer chooses paper. Yeah, it's kind of mind numbing, right? I did all of that. And then I was like, look, if none of these are oh, and then I even individually accounted for like each draw, right? And yeah, so it's like 3, right? 3, 3. It's like you win, you lose, or a draw. Otherwise, make a valid choice. And then I put this in a while loop because I wanted to be able to like be like, do you want to play again? Yes, no. And, I think it's kind of cool. And if the chooser says yes, thanks for playing, and then we exit. But then the other thing left here was that what if um, the other thing left was like what if what if the user doesn't even input an integer, right? So and that I wanted to account for that as well. So in that case, I had to check. I had to account for the value error that we would get, right? Because this input statement it receives a string that we then convert to an integer. So if the user inputs an actual string, like you're never even going to get to please make a valid choice because the program's going to break here. So then I had to do a try except to catch the value error. All right, please make a valid choice and continue. Then keep going back to the top of the loop and stuff. Yeah. So, and as far as the images, right? That's the last thing. How am I going to show the images? So, okay, I see now. Even though this was like nice, it was nice. It still is pretty damn clunky because every single game turn you see here has this function here, right? It takes the player choice and it takes the computer choice, and then in this function here, we're going to print the ASCII art for the player, and then we're going to print computer chose, and then we're going to print the ASCII art for the computer. But uh, this did not need to go into every single round. In fact, didn't even really need a function. It's not that complicated. It could have happened immediately after the player and the computer made their choice, like right here, right? Could have just shown it right here. So, it was very clunky. It was a bit excessive, but it did work. Okay. So ever since I've gotten over it again, I went over her solution and stuff. And I GPT'd it a little bit. I tried to think it out. So I'm gonna try and redo it right now because the way that she does it is like Okay, so these are the cases, and now we can go ahead and do them. Now, so this first one is pretty easy. We're going to have a player choice, right? So player choice, we got to get that from the user. So it's going to be, I'm just going to say, yeah, 0 for rock, 1 for paper, 2 for scissors. And we're going to have to turn this into an integer because we're going to compare against the computer's answer. Okay, now, what's the computer's choice going to be? Computer choice is going to be a random integer between 0 and 2. So now here, if player choice is equal to computer choice, I'm just going to say print win. That's done, right? Over here, elif, right? And let's just lose. Okay, so now we do this stuff. Let's make this an else. So otherwise, and these three cases we can write out if player choice, so scissors is 2 and computer choice is 1, right? Win. We just copy this. All right, put that here, put that here. So if we choose paper, scissors, right? And the last case, right? Rock, and computer chooses scissors. Then also win. All right, so now we can get rid of these. Now, this is looking decent. And if we run this now, so choose rock, paper, scissors. So if I choose 0 for rock, win. If I choose 2, right? Let's make this up. 0 for rock, 1 paper. Okay. I'm going to put a little line break here so it looks nicer. So right now we're not getting any details about what even happened, but it's working. Okay. So now it's the next thing would be to put the images in there, obviously, right? So in the demo, you just immediately see the users in the demo, you see the users ASCII representation of the answer, and then you see computer chose, and then the computers thing, and then you see the you win. Now this stuff, the result is already inside each condition of the if statement, right? But this stuff here is going to go where? This stuff can print before any of this even happens, right? So we got a player choice and we got a computer choice, and we can go ahead and print those. So we're going to print a player choice here. For example, you put a 1, right? We want to go into the game images list and extract the element with the corresponding index. So we would say game images, and that is our index, right? And for computer choice, and since to be faithful to the project, right? It was like computer chose, okay? And then we're also going to print the computer choice, which was game images. Uh, and I think that should do it. So let's run this. So if I say 0 for rock, right? So paper beats rock, I lost, right? Lose. If I do 1 for paper, paper, ah, nope, that did not work. I chose paper, computer chose paper, and it says win. Wait, what's up? If player choice equals computer choice, should be a draw, right? What's up with that? If I put in 1, player choices, let's follow the code. Player choice is 1, right? Computer in this case also chose 1, didn't it? Oh, because I said print win. That's draw. Okay, so let's do this. 1, right? So paper beats rock. Let's run another one. Do a 2. Um, warm apple pie meets warm apple pie. That's draw. Yeah, okay, so this works. Okay, all right. And actually at this point, we are done. This is what the demo had done, okay? But let's take it a step further, okay? So what if we try to break it, right? What if the user puts in like a 5? Then we get an error, right? We get an out of range error. So we should account for that. We should be like, hey, you did not choose, didn't choose a valid response, blah, blah, blah. So where would be the best place to do that? So what I'm gonna do is, right? Because at first my instinct was like, I'm gonna say like um, if the response, right? I was gonna say, if the response is, valid, like if the response is like between 0 and 2, right? Then go ahead and do all this. Otherwise, right? Otherwise, be like invalid input. In which case, I have a nested if statement. And then I was like, is that really necessary? Like, you don't need to nest this if statement. You could simply use that as the first condition. So we turn this into an elif, and we say if what makes a valid thingy if the thing is between 0 and 2. So player choice, right? If the player choice, yeah, so you could do if player choice is greater than or equal to 0 and player choice, right? Player choice is less than or equal to 2, and that's fine, but I don't, it just, this annoys me. So what I'm thinking is we want to make sure the player choice is not less than 0 and not greater than 2. So player choice, so if the player choice is less than 0, no, my bad. The player choice is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 2. This is what we, in this case, would are testing for, but we want to test for if it is not, if it is not greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 2. So there we go. So if that happens, invalid input. So now if I run this and I put a 5, oh no, uh, if not. I know I'm missing some, well, let me see, what did I do here? User choice, if not, right? But this, oh, yeah, I see. What have we done, or what have we done here? So we take the player's choice here, right? And let's say they give us like a, like a 10 or something, right? So then what happens is that this thing over here, this line throws an error because there is no index 5 in game images. So it never even reaches this. So you know what? Since we're also going to have to account for non-integer answers, like, if I say blah, right? I get a value error. Since I'm going to have to account for that as well, let me see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in a try except. So I'm going to say try, 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 try. I'm going to put that here and put the value error here. Invalid input, right? Now, I'm going to put this in a while loop. And if the input is invalid, I'm going to make them go back and do it again. And if it's good, then we're going to break, which means that this should all work fine. So let's do it now. Let's say, first of all, I put text, invalid input, and ask me to do it again. I say blah, blah, invalid input, makes me do it again. If I put in a 5, I'm still getting list index out of range, bro, which is now hitting here, line 40. So how do we fix this? So we're using player choice before we know that it's been validated, right? So it's like get the input. If it's not an integer, reject it and retry. That's here. Otherwise, accept it, right? Exit the loop, right? Then we anything that uses player choice has to happen after we validated it. We only validated that it is indeed a numerical value. But over here, I'm using my player choice. Yeah, but I get it. But where are we going to put it? Instead of having this in the if statement here, we're just going to still. This is going to be a separate if statement. Just make it a separate if statement. Do this here like that, right? So after we checked for that whole thing there with the try except, then we will, this checks if it's a integer. This checks if it's a valid integer. So if it's not a valid integer, we're going to say um, I could put this in here in the loop, right? Print invalid error and continue. Not print invalid input and continue. All right, let's do blah, invalid input. Okay, if I do 5, nope. Uh, Inside the try, we got accept. because we're leaving the loop here, right? Can't break here, can't leave the loop here. So try player choice, he puts the wrong choice, we go here and we continue. And if the accept doesn't trigger, then we go here and we continue. And then if both of these are good, then we break. So if I put a 5, invalid input, right? -1, invalid input. If I put banana, invalid input. If I put 1, the game begins. Okay, makes sense. Okay. Uh, yeah. And the only thing that we could do uh, to improve this would just be to put in an option about just to ask the user, like, do you want to keep playing or not? So that option would be obviously a loop, and that loop would hold everything. Right? The project is pretty much done by this point, but yeah, so we can put the whole thing in a while loop. So when it's done, yeah, we could leave it like this for now. I was thinking of doing something like this. So I have an outer loop, right? All of this stuff plays, happens. And then we say, play again. So you can put, right? Yes or no. Um, and if this equals yes, continue. Uh, and now it's gonna be like, thanks for playing. And break. So now we run this. So we play once, right? Win. And it says play again. I say Y for yes. And again, it asks me to play. I print 2, I win. Play again, I put no. Thanks for playing, sucker. So let's make this look a little nicer, right? Right, win, and do 0, play again, say no, thanks for playing. Yeah, I think that's enough for now. And this whole thing, like the thing with the outer loop and the inner loop, it's like, it's like clumsy. This could have been solved much easier with actual functions, I guess. Would have been like I don't know, get player choice and then round and play again or whatever. But I'm gonna end it for now. So I'm relatively happy with it for now. I really hate this nested while loop, but I'm gonna try to let it not ruin my sleep.